First of all, you have to have some self-awareness, and it takes some work. And it depends on how fast you want to move, right? If you want to move quickly, you get a coach. Really, I mean, how many coaches have you spend a lot of money on coaches?
Currently,
right?
I have 4 coaches that I'm investing tens of thousands of dollars on.
If you do these things, you probably suck at sales. Can I say suck?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not.
It's
a 4-letter word.
We're PG-13. We're pushing it.
Okay.
But,
okay. Yeah, you suck at sales of this. And one of the things is like if you negotiate with the price in your head, like if the client says, "Hey, I want to get this done," you're like, "Hey, it's $1,000. I need $1,000 to get it done," and you're like, "Oh, they can't afford $1,000. I'll tell them $895." And if you start negotiating in your head and you're giving the client discounts before you even tell them how much it's going to cost and how much you need, then you suck at sales. Clients, they want to be heard. This is the most important thing I think I wanted to say the other day is times are different than they were 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And a lot of the lawn care kids that are there today are young men. They've learned their craft and how to run business potentially or how not run business from the mentors that they used to work for. But things have changed now. Now you should just be like, hey, how can I help you? What are you hoping? What problems are you experiencing? What are the things that you're hoping I can help you solve? And then just let them talk. And then you give them affirmations and then offer them a prize.
Welcome to Louisville, Kentucky. For the first time ever in person, I got to meet my friend Eric Triplett, who's been mentoring me for years from afar. We're here at the John Deere booth where they're showing off their latest and greatest mowers, tractors, so much more. Having a blast here at the Equip Expo. What's up, Eric?
What's up, my man? It's a good time.
Yeah, you've been on the podcast before through Zoom, but this is way better.
Yeah, way better, way better. You're larger than life. I tell everyone that I've met so far, I knew you before you were famous. Yeah.
I don't know about famous, but we're having a good time here.
Yeah.
What do you think? First time hanging out with 30,000 rednecks, lawn care guys.
I've hung out with a lot of rednecks, but not quite 30,000 at once. Yeah, it's great. It's good stuff, man. I'm hanging out with a lot of people that I haven't met in person. Through the social media platforms. I'm meeting everybody, and it's really good to get hugs and everything. Mm-hmm. See people I haven't seen in a long time. Like, whoa, you dropped some weight. You look great. Like, it's been really cool. It's been great.
Now, disclaimer, our friends at John Deere are listening, as well as a lot of kids, so I know you could cuss like a sailor, but this is a PG PG audience, G audience. So
yeah.
Can you keep it?
I'll keep it clean, but I have a lot of emotional intelligence. I know where I'm at right now.
All right. Yeah. Just giving the disclaimer, because Triplett sure can get colorful with his language.
I could actually beep myself. You know what I mean? I could censor myself as I'm talking. I'll do it if I have to.
Well, we're going to get the G-rated pond digger today. But for those who don't know who the pond digger is, the name kind of gives it away. Excellent marketing there. But who is the pond digger?
The pond digger. Oh, man, it's this crazy kid who followed his passion for fish 25, 30 years ago. And I was into aquariums, and I was a journeyman carpenter, and I just was like, hey, I don't want to be 50, 60 years old. I was in my 20s, early 20s, giving these like 55-year-old guys orders, and I was like, I don't really want to be that guy. I don't know how I was smart enough to figure that out, but I started making money with fish, and it turned into ponds, and then my construction background like popped back in. I was like, I could do this and run crews. Let's go. So that's the 30-second, 1 minute picture.
Well, on today's episode, Eric, I was hoping that you could kind of do a debrief of your talk about sales. It was very, very convicting. You gave a list of top 10 things not to do, and I did several of those. You're like, you're no good at sales if you talk too much. And I'm like, man, I sometimes I just that one really convicted me. A customer is like, sign me up, let's go, and I'm just yapping and yapping and yapping, and it's like, just shut up and serve your customers. So I'll let you kind of recap what you taught. I know you taught for like an hour and a half, so we're going to keep it tighter than that. But give us the sales training according to the pond digger.
So sales training, I have 8 vital questions I ask my clients, my prospects, before I go out and see them, just to make sure we're a right fit for each other. Now, as a contractor, I mean, you should do the prospect a service and yourself a service. Like, do you guys fit together, right? And so, but you can't get on the phone and say, hey, does our timeline match? Do I like you? Are you rude? Are you nice? And can you afford me? Like, it's really hard to just have that conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to answer those questions and have a conversation like, we're getting to meet each other. And so that's what I've focused on. Now, to give you the reason why I had to do this is because I'm trying to make this short. Like pretty much in 2015, I had a world-class construction company, lots of guys working for me for a decade, 15 years, and I had throat cancer. So I shut the company down and got healthy. Amen. And then 2-3 years later, I'm like, well, I can go back into building again. But I had already set my guys up with contractors' licenses, sent them out on their own. So I had to rebuild. And I was a different person, not only because of, overcoming cancer, but also because I had to like train new guys, and I had this weird problem talking to customers at that point, just because I didn't have my team anymore. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It kind of evolved. I dove into sales communications, and like a lot of times when you're studying sales, either through podcasts and reading books and all that stuff, you're listening to guys who sell cars, houses, like real estate, like all the, insurance, all these different sales philosophies. But now I just honed them in. And luckily I had 15 years of experience already. And I'm like, I'm going to take this, apply it to construction. And it worked for me. Right. And then now I just want to help contractors like understand that. I'm trying to help the 25-year-old version of myself, the 50-year-old version of myself moving forward. And that's the premise behind my sales coaching program.
That's good. I want to dive deeper into that, but I want you to tell us the story about you met somebody at the hotel. This is going wrong. You
Hey, careful.
Tell us the story that you know where I'm going with
Yeah.
this, but I don't want to give it away. So
Okay.
I want you to tell it from start to finish. This is stunning.
Okay. So I'm reading a book, Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, and he talks about, challenging you to reach out to 3 people that you think you can't talk to. Like they would never talk to me, right? Think of famous people, right? So I'm reading this book. It's hitting me real hard. We're at LCR Summit, which was amazing, by the way. I really enjoyed it. And Naylor walks us through this visions experience and exercise at the end of the day. And he's like, shut your eyes. I'm getting goosebumps right now. And, think about all these things. And then he goes through the exercise. And then kind of in that whole experience, he's like, reach out to 3 people you think you can't talk to. I'm like, is he reading Tim Ferriss right now? Like, what is happening, right? So I go back to the hotel and I start, talking to myself. I'm like, Chris Voss has been a really big influence of me. And I was like, I would love to get him on my podcast. I thought about reaching out to him. I always talk myself out of it. I'm like, you should do it. Don't do it. And now Tim Ferriss and Naylor Taliaferro are like, hit him. So I go back to the hotel. My time zone's all messed up. I'm going to take a quick nap before dinner, right? I take a nap, wake up, hit the shower, and I'm late. I'm late to dinner, so I'm kind of hustling, right? I come down and, it's a private upstairs.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, fancy, private elevator, all this stuff. But before I went to sleep, before I fell asleep, I was like, I committed to myself, you're going to reach out to Chris Voss. You're going to email him, call him, you're going to get to his people, you're going to somehow talk to Chris Voss. So then I went to sleep, all that stuff. So I'm running late. The waitress meets me. She escorts me to this elevator, and as we're walking through this dark bar, on my right-hand side, the bar's there, and all these people's backs are to me. People are sitting in their bar stools. There's a couple people standing up, and they're like 5 or 6 feet away from me as I'm cruising through the corridor. I had this crazy sensation that Chris Voss was standing right here on my right. I had this silhouette of a guy's back right there, and I'm like, that's Chris Voss. I'm like, nah. No. And I just kept walking, and she takes me to this elevator. And right before I step into the elevator, I was like, just a minute. You just have to wait a minute. I'll be right back. Pardon me. And I turned around, walked back to the bar. And as I'm walking to the bar, and I'm like, there's no way this is Chris Voss. There's just no way. And then I'm like, he's about the right height of Chris Voss. And I'm like, no, it's impossible. It's just unbelievable. There's no way. And as I'm heading that way, I'm like, he's about the same framework as Chris for sure. I'm like, nope. And then I'm start going like, well, maybe he's at the Equip Expo. He's going to be talking. Of course, it's Chris Voss. He's going to be there. That makes sense. No, it's not Chris Voss. I come around the corner. I'm like, Chris Voss. We reach out. We shake hands. We have some small talk. I ask him for an email that I can send to him to get on the podcast. He's like, absolutely. Boom. We shake hands. And I said, oh, by the way, are you here for the Equip Expo this weekend? He's like, no, I'm just here in town celebrating with some friends. Total manifestation. I turned around, walked upstairs, had dinner with you guys. It was
Pretty crazy.
Unbelievable.
And for those who don't know Chris Voss, I know him. He helped me negotiate some of my car sales. Maybe I should reread it, but who is he? Because I listened to his audiobook. It was fantastic.
Yeah. He wrote Never Split the Difference. He's a retired FBI negotiator. You know, he's like if someone had some hostages and that he was the guy going in to get them. I mean, he's unbelievable talking to the terrorists and like calming things down and saving people's lives. Really, really amazing stuff.
Crazy. And sometimes we think, oh, I'm running late, and then you should be a punctual person. I think that talks to your integrity. But like everything lined up for you to walk it past him at the right moment and be like, that's him. Because it is dark. I've been where you were at. It's very dark in there.
Yeah. Some friends of mine said it was maybe divine intervention.
Oh, well, if you can't calculate that, I mean, that's so many moving parts. It's very incredible story and very encouraging. So,
yeah, it was fun. The whole weekend has been like that. Equip Expo has really put together something amazing. The John Deere booth, unbelievable. Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah, I had to make sure I told Chris, like, hey, I have a lot of John Deere on my property, just in case you're wondering. Yeah.
He's listening right now.
Yeah.
What kind of you got gators out there?
I got gators. I have some old like an old John Deere 317. It's an old one, man, and it's still like dependable. Like it's my go-to, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, they're listening.
Yeah.
Eric Triplett, the pond digger.
So we were talking about excavators and all kinds of stuff this weekend. Fun. Yeah, I walked the booth. It's beautiful, man. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Well, folks listening, Eric, they're running lawn businesses. I know for sure they're making the mistakes on your list because I'm making them, and we're making these mistakes. Can you give us some actual X's and O's of how we can, close better deals and stay away from the pain in the butt? We call them PITAs. Pain in the butt customers.
Yeah. So first of all, you have to have some self-awareness, and it takes some work. And it depends on how fast you want to move, right? If you want to move quickly, you get a coach. Really, I mean, how many coaches have you spend a lot of money on coaches?
Currently,
right?
I have 4 coaches that I'm investing tens of thousands of dollars on.
So if you want to move fast, then that's the way to go. Otherwise, you got to read the books and you got to decipher them, and it's like reading the Bible. You might not interpret it right. You're just reading these books and you think you know it, but you don't. So that's why I came up with the seminar that I did. It's like, if you do these things, you probably suck at sales. Can I say suck?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a 4-letter word.
We're PG-13. We're pushing it.
Okay.
But
okay. Yeah, you suck at sales of this. And one of the things is like, if you negotiate with the price in your head, like if the client says, hey, I want to get this done, you're like, hey, it's $1,000. I need $1,000 to get it done. And you're like, oh, they can't afford $1,000. I'll tell them $895. And if you start negotiating in your head, you're giving the client discounts before you even tell them how much it's going to cost and how much you need, then you suck at sales. So, I came up with that whole plan. If you talk too much, you suck at sales. If you do all these things. And so, actually, if you go to contractorsalessecrets.com, can I do this?
Yeah, please.
Okay. If you go to contractorsalessecrets.com, you can download that booklet that I used. And
you did a great job
for the seminar.
Yeah, with that.
And you can download it for free, and it kind of goes through, and it talks about giving affirmations to your clients, making sure that they listen to you. Clients, they want to be heard. This is the most important thing I think I wanted to say the other day is times are different than they were 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And a lot of the lawn care kids that are there today are young men. They've learned their craft and how to run business potentially, or how not run business, from the mentors that they used to work for. But things have changed now. So when you're talking to a prospect, they already know you're running, a big team. They already know that you've been in business you already know you're in the Better Business Bureau. They've done the social proofing. Mm-hmm. They know you have X amount of, Google reviews and all that stuff. So there's no sense wasting their time telling them that. They're like, I already know this, but they don't want to be rude and tell you that. So there's a lot of little aspects like that. So it's just changed. Now you should just be like, hey, how can I help you? What are you hoping? What problems are you experiencing? What are the things that you're hoping I can help you solve? And then just let them talk. And then you give them affirmations and then offer them a prize.
What have been some of your biggest mistakes and then some of your biggest successes selling?
So some of my biggest mistakes is like I was selling before the internet. So I had to do that part of the interview. Hey, we're award winning, we're recognized, globally or whatever. Like, so I had to kind of do that. And so in the middle, as it was changing, I was still doing that. And people, I had to figure that out in the middle. So now that's part of my passion, is to teach contractors how not to do it poorly. Right. So, but some of my successes have been after I did the whole, change after 2015 and changed my sales process. And, there was times where I talked to a prospect over the phone and they wanted to spend not a penny more than 15,000. They'd like to keep it around 12.5. I set up a design consultation meeting. I meet them on their property. I give them a magic wand. Here, paint me this picture you want. And they painted a $17,500, picture. And so here I'm writing out the numbers, and I'm like, oh my God, this is 17.5. He didn't want to spend more than 12.5. I've wasted his time and mine. This is bad. This is really bad. And so I went through the whole thing, and I was like, well, I'm not going to negotiate with myself. I mean, he wants 17.5. I'm not going to just give him $5,000 discount and still give him that. So, I'm looking at this, and there's one of the parts in our sales process to brace the prospect on the money. Because money's really taboo. Like if I just said, hey, how much money are you making a year on all your sponsorships? Will you tell us right now? That'd be rude, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. You're like, I don't want to talk about that right now, Eric. This is taboo. So it's that way with clients too when you go to talk about money. So
that's good, Eric.
Right?
Very good point.
So we want to like brace them. It's like, hey, I wrote the numbers up, Paul. A lot of silence. You let it hang there for a second. It's like, I'm afraid I got some bad news. And you brace them, because I gave him the picture, he painted it, I ran the numbers again. I got some bad news, Paul. They said like, maybe we should sit down. No, just okay, I'm ready. It's going to be bad, isn't it? It's like, yeah, we went over by a lot. And so in his head, he's going, it's going to be 20,000. Like, oh, it's like you get him to like get this big old crescendo. And you go like 17,500, and you slide the paper over, and then you just be quiet. And I remember that moment I did that. It was a really defining point in the way I sold, and I was just quiet. And it was crazy because it was like probably, I don't know, a minute and a half, complete silence, sitting this close to each other. And we just sat there in silence for a minute and a half. I didn't say a word. And he said, when can you start? Right?
Let's go.
Yeah. And so, that's why I'm saying that the contractors out there might suck at sales if they don't even have that tactic or that understanding. If they move in there nice and slow and considerate, respectful, polite, most contractors do the opposite. So
good. What's the difference between guys selling lawn mowing, basic maintenances of $75 a pop or whatnot, versus a $10,000, $12,000, $7,500 job and beyond? Are there different tactics to those different services?
It's a great question, and I think the problem with contractors that I see, and I have lawn care and snow removal guys in my inner circle, right? A lot of times they go in and they just turn themselves into the commodity. There's more than that commodity, and there's more than just the commodity. You'll have clients that just want to know, hey, my last guy did cuts for $35, and now you want 50. And then it's only about the dollar, and there's not about the value. I would just talk them into like being not falling into that trap. Mm-hmm. They have to come up with their unique selling position. Like Mr. Producer, I was talking to him the other day. He's like, this is my unique selling position. And a lot of the lawn care guys have no idea even what we're talking about. What is a unique selling position, right? So these are some of the things they need to talk about. And again, if you want to get there quickly, hire a coach, like yourself. If you want to get there at some point, you at least have to first come up with self-awareness and then get into the constant and never-ending battle to become better, right?
Very good. My next question for you, Eric, is about social media. You have a big YouTube channel. You're consistent on Instagram, podcast. You're doing social media. Kind of share your story and how that influences your traditional business of installing ponds, as well as creating you as an authority in the construction world for contractors who need coaching and guidance. Just give us your social media history and how that's helped you, what you've learned from it, maybe whatever you want to share about your social media journey.
Okay. My social media journey it's been a journey. It flows. So like we started with YouTube, and it started with probably MySpace first.
There you go.
But we went on YouTube, and we went really hard for probably 8 or 9 years. And truth be told, I've barely dabbled in YouTube in the past year, a little bit, but I took like 5 years off. Here's the amazing thing is I still get calls every day for pond construction, and the authority has been etched in stone. You cannot take that from me. It's undeniable, right? So once you set that in place, you know, people might be like, oh, it's too saturated. And it's not the truth, because I have guys in my inner circle that have 2 videos and they sold a $100,000 job when 2 videos won there and 7 subscribers. It's the way you use it now. It's a little different than it was 10 years ago. Now you make the video and you send it to the client. Hey, this is what we do. This is what we specialize in. Instead of just putting it out to the world and hoping everyone finds it, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of tactics like that. But, you know, I was talking to Debbie. She was she's the media girl, and she's like, "Are you ready? Are you nervous?" I'm like, "I'm not nervous." Are you kidding me? Like, I'll get in the pocket, right? So, you know, the medium has changed, but the message is always the same. So, you know, I went from Periscope to Snapchat, and then people were like, "Snapchat's for 13-year-old girls. What are you getting out of this?" I'm like, I'm getting that visual experience. I'm talking to the camera. You know, I'm feeling confident about the way I look and the way I sound, the way I pause. All those things have been pressed apart. So then it goes to Facebook Live, to Instagram, to stories, to like, so, you know, all that stuff applies. So podcasting is probably one of my favorite things currently. I really, really enjoy podcasting. Can I plug my podcast?
Yeah, please. And your producer.
Yeah.
New producer.
I actually just hired Mr. Producer this weekend. I'm on the Pond Digger podcast, and we do a construction one for contractors and entrepreneurs weekly, and then we do one for Pond Freaks weekly too. Yeah. So that's how it all is, and I can always move back. I feel really fluid right now. If I want to go hard on Instagram or TikTok or podcasting or whatever it is, whatever's coming next, do we know yet? Can you get Gary Vee on the phone right now and ask him what's next?
Well, I think I listened to a lot of Gary Vee. I think it's keep going. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. LinkedIn. Yeah. LinkedIn's big. But for someone who owns a lawn care landscaping business, start with Facebook. That's where you need to be. And then, you know, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn are next. But I don't think you need to worry about the new one. Like, the problem with that, Eric, is you're not even doing Facebook good, and you're worried about, the new thing. Like, no, stick with the ones that are where the eyeballs and ears are.
Yeah, it's exactly what Gary Vee would say.
I listened to Gary Vee. That wasn't my opinion. That was...
Yeah, clearly.
You got to meet him. I saw a picture. You met him in person.
Yeah. Actually, I hung out with him in, where were we? We were in New York. We went to VidCon,
Wow.
VidCon. It was pretty awesome. And he was there. He did a little keynote speak. I was in his suite. You know, we were in the suite last night with Naylor up at the concert.
You're kidding me.
I was in the suite with him and his girl, and his mom and dad. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you get in that suite?
You know, sometimes it's not about what you know, but who you know. I'm so glad to know you right now, dude. I am so glad to know you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He got in. I don't know how. We love stories on the podcast. I guess you're not telling that story.
Hey, man, when you get that close to GV, you know, you got to be careful how you spread it.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well played. Well, what's next for the Pond Digger? Did you get any inspiration? I know the first day you met, I was like, why'd you come here? And I know you part of it, you came for the friendship with Naylor and honoring, you know, his invitation. Mm-hmm. But did you get an inspiring thought, or was the Chris Voss thing something that spoke to you? Like, what's your takeaways when you go back to your country? I mean,
California is
part of me.
Listen, I think it's a really important question, and I know that you probably setting me up for this to really punch the listeners with this. But listen, I told you what I was here for. Did I not act upon it? Mm-hmm. I delivered. I was like, hey, Mr. Producer, this is where I want to go. I sought that out, right? But plus, I opened my mind to the information that was fed to me, and Chris Voss was served. You know what I mean? So it's like, you like when you come to an event like this, I'm not here to just drink beer and look at pretty things and run around and you know, cause a muck, right? I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a lot farther along than a lot of our listeners, but I'm so far behind most. You know what I mean? So I got a lot of work to do.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, how can people connect with you, work with you? I know you help contractors. If you're like, man, this has been good. Eric has some opportunities where you can work with him. on a more personal level, go ahead and go plug your stuff.
Yeah. Well, you can find, again, contractorsalessecrets.com is the best way for you to download that information I shared. And then I'll be able to contact you through there. I'd love it if you check out my podcast, at The Pond Digger, and all the other social media platforms from YouTube, Instagram. I do check the DMs currently at the time of this recording regularly. So that's the best way to get a hold of me, and I'll look forward to talking to you.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time, Eric, and thanks for the motivation. I'm going to not talk so much when I'm selling.
Yeah.
That one stings, man. That was so good that you brought that up.
All right, man. Thanks for the time. Awesome. Thanks,
Eric. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah. Bye.